There is a seal buried in Scripture that most believers have read past without ever understanding its true weight. Jesus lived in a world where a mark like this could stop lions in their tracks. That mark was called IZQA. Ancient teachers believed it carried the power to protect the chosen from every hidden force working against them. Tonight, we uncover what this seal truly means, and why it still matters for you right now. What you are about to hear may change how you understand protection forever. For centuries, the deeper spiritual meaning behind Aramaic words spoken in the world of Jesus was rarely explored in mainstream teaching. One such word buried in the book of Daniel rather than any lost text carries a weight most overlook entirely. Aramaic word IZQA. In Daniel chapter 6, a king pressed his own signet ring into the stone ceiling, a den of lions, and that seal held through the night, untouched by every danger surrounding it. The word for that seal was IZQA. This is not a hidden gospel discovery. It is Scripture that has always been available, simply waiting for someone to connect its full symbolic weight to the deeper teaching of protection that Jesus later carried into the world. IZQA. IZQA. An anel de celo. A mark of sealed authority nothing could break without consequence. In the Aramaic-speaking world, words were never just labels. They carried sound, weight, and vibration believed to reach beyond simple meaning. To speak IZQA correctly was to speak a boundary into existence, a line drawn by rightful authority that lesser forces could not cross. Ancient listeners believed that pronouncing a sacred word with the right sound reconnected something ancient within them, a memory older than the mind itself, as though the body recognized truth before the intellect caught up to it. This is why the exact word, spoken correctly, was never treated as decoration. It was treated as a key. Jesus taught in this same world of sealed authority and sacred sound, speaking of a peace the world could not give and could not take away. Early Christian and Gnostic communities, reading his words later, connected that same peace to the ancient image of a seal placed not by human hands alone, but by something greater standing behind the person who carries it. Tonight, we walk fully into that connection, and what it means for the dangers circling your own life right now. Ancient mystics spoke of forces. They called patterns of distortion, feeding on fear, distraction, and forgetfulness. These forces were never described as creatures with claws. They were described as pressure, as static, as the quiet pull toward smallness. Whenever a person forgets what protects them, where a seal exists, this pressure loses its grip entirely. Where a seal is forgotten, these forces move in quietly, testing every unguarded corner of the mind, waiting patiently for a moment of doubt to work their way inside a life that once felt steady. The teaching of IZQA stood directly against this pattern of erosion. A sealed thing could be tested, surrounded, even mocked, yet it could not be entered without breaking something sacred in the process, and that breaking always carried a cost. The Archons were unwilling to pay. This is why the ancient seal was never associated with aggression or struggle. It did not need to fight for its ground. It was, quite simply, the seal Archons cannot cross, and that quiet, immovable certainty was its entire strength against every force testing it, night after night, without exception. Return to the lions circling that sealed den in Daniel's story. The threat was real, hungry, and fully capable. Yet the outcome was already decided the moment the seal was pressed into place. This is the pattern ancient teachers pointed toward when speaking of the chosen carrying protection they did not always feel in the moment, but which held firm regardless of how loud the danger appeared to be around them. Many people today feel surrounded without understanding why, anxious thoughts circling like patient predators, waiting for a single moment of forgetfulness to strike. The teaching of IZQA suggests something different is available tonight. Not the disappearance of the lions circling your life, but the quiet presence of a seal strong enough that their hunger changes nothing about the outcome already decided for you, no matter how close they seem to draw. If this teaching already feels this deep, imagine having a full guide with deeper explanations of JESUS's true teachings in Aramaic. You'll find the link to the study guide in the comments. But something even more important is still ahead. The next chapters reveal what this seal means for you personally, and what happens once you learn to carry it. And the best is yet to come. In the next chapters, you'll discover what could change everything for you. Ancient teachers who studied this seal believed its power was never meant to stay locked inside old scrolls and older stories. They believed it was meant to be carried, quietly and personally, by anyone willing to recognize the mark already placed upon them. Some traditions spoke of this seal taking the shape of a single letter, the letter M, quietly traced along the natural lines of the palm, the very hand a person uses to build their life, to work, to reach toward others. Whether taken literally or symbolically, the message beneath this image stayed remarkably consistent across generations. Protection was never something a person had to constantly fight to earn. It was something already carried, whether or not a person had learned to notice it yet. This is where IZQA becomes deeply personal rather than purely historical, moving from an old story about a king in a den of lions into a direct question about your own life tonight, your own fears, your own sense of being surrounded. If a seal could guard a den of lions through an entire night, ancient teachers reasoned, it could certainly guard a single human heart through seasons of fear, grief, or uncertainty. The seal does not remove the difficulty from a season of life. It determines what that difficulty is allowed to touch, and what remains completely untouched, no matter how long the night stretches on before morning finally arrives. This distinction changes how a person carries hardship. Those who felt marked by this teaching often described a real shift, not necessarily in their circumstances, but in how those circumstances landed on them day by day. The same lions circled outside. The same pressures remained present. Yet something inside no longer trembled quite the way it once did before this understanding arrived. This is the quiet claim carried by the ancient seal of IZQA, that the letter traced into your own palm changes how threat is experienced, even before it changes a single external circumstance surrounding you tonight. That sense of being marked, of carrying something no lion, no pressure, and no fear can quietly erase, is exactly where we turn next, into what this protection truly costs, and what it changes once recognized as your own. A common misunderstanding surrounds the very idea of a seal. Many imagine it as a cage, something closed and restrictive, when the ancient teaching actually pointed in the opposite direction entirely. A seal did not trap what was inside it. It protected the freedom of what was inside to remain exactly as it was meant to be, undisturbed by outside interference or pressure. The lions could not reach in, no matter how close they circled through the long night. Just as importantly, whatever was sealed did not need to shrink, hide, or change itself in order to survive until morning. This distinction matters enormously for anyone carrying old fear about being controlled or confined by spiritual language of any kind. IZQA was never about restriction or limitation. It was about integrity, a word meaning wholeness, the state of remaining unbroken despite pressure from every direction imaginable. Jesus spoke often of a peace the world could not give and could not take away from a person who carried it honestly. That description fits naturally alongside this ancient image of an unbreakable seal, placed by a hand far greater than any threat circling outside it. Ancient practitioners who meditated on this teaching described a feeling of settling deep within them, as though some part of their spirit finally stopped bracing for an attack that was never going to succeed in the first place. This is not passive resignation to circumstance. It is a grounded confidence, the kind that allows a person to remain gentle even while surrounded, because they are no longer negotiating with the lions for their own safety or worth. Freedom, in this teaching, was never the absence of walls or boundaries around a life. It was the certainty of what those walls were actually protecting, and the quiet knowledge that nothing sacred was ever meant to be reached by force, fear, or pressure from the outside. IZQA, spoken with understanding, becomes less a word and more a remembering, a return to a boundary that was always meant to hold. Right now, you might be asking yourself, why am I only discovering this truth now? Don't worry. We thought about that. We're here to help you go deeper with a guide made for this journey. The link is in the comments. 382 words. The ancient teaching of IZQA was never meant to remain locked inside old scrolls and older stories. It was meant to be carried quietly and consistently into ordinary days filled with ordinary pressures. Practitioners who valued this symbol often began their mornings with a simple, honest acknowledgement, choosing to remember that whatever they were about to face had already been met by something sealed and steady within them, long before the day's first difficulty ever arrived at their door. This does not require elaborate ritual or complicated preparation. It asks only for attention, repeated gently across the ordinary hours of an ordinary life. Before stepping into a difficult conversation, a demanding task, or an uncertain season, a person might pause and silently recall the image of the sealed den, the lions present but powerless, the protection already settled before the threat ever appeared. This small act of remembering was, to the ancient mind, the same as pressing the seal fresh each day, renewing the boundary rather than assuming it would hold entirely on its own without care. Over time, this practice reshapes how a person meets conflict, pressure, and fear. The goal was never to feel nothing at all. It was to feel everything while trusting the seal holds, regardless of what surrounds it. Fear could visit without moving in permanently. Pressure could surround a life without ever crossing the line that mattered most, the line drawn not by human effort, but by something greater standing quietly behind it, unmoved by the noise circling around it. This is the quiet inheritance offered by the teaching of IZQA, not a promise that lions will disappear entirely from your life, but a steady, sealed confidence that what belongs to you remains yours, held by something greater than whatever circles outside it tonight. Jesus spoke of a kingdom already present, already given, already sealed for those willing to receive it honestly, without needing to fight for what was never truly in danger of being lost in the first place. We are just scratching the surface of this ancient power. Get ready, because in our next video, I will reveal even deeper Aramaic codes that unlock spiritual authority you've never imagined. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss this unfolding revelation. Transformation Protocol. Tonight, we walked through an ancient seal, pressed into wax's stone, and story long before it was ever pressed into meaning. IZQA, the seal of sealed authority, carried the weight of protected wholeness, a boundary that lions, fear, and every hidden pressure could surround but never cross. Jesus lived and taught within a world that understood this image deeply, and the principle behind it, protection through belonging, remains as steady now as it was on the night that seal first held. If you would like to carry this teaching into your own days, here is a simple practice. Each morning, before the day's first demand arrives, speak the word IZQA quietly to yourself 3 times, slowly, allowing the sound itself to settle rather than rushing past it. As you speak it, bring to mind one pressure you are currently facing, and simply notice that it is already surrounded by something steadier than itself. This is not a one-time prayer, to be spoken and forgotten. It is a daily renewing of the seal, a small act repeated until it becomes as natural as breathing. Just a quick reminder, the transformation guides for a fuller life are waiting for you, right there in the comments. Before you leave, if this message touched your heart or brought new understanding into your life, WRITE, the word restoration, in the comments below. Your testimony may encourage someone else who is seeking healing and renewal. Thank you for sharing this moment of ancient wisdom with us. Until the next revelation, walk in peace to walk in freedom, and walk in the power of His